Hello everybody, another midnight review presented by Glasshouse Films with Carson. Oh my god, it's the second review! What? This is insanity! Yeah, it is insanity. Ocean, pardon the air conditioning. It's what? Like 90 degrees outside, and I just need some sort of air, so pardon the white noise of the air conditioning in the background. But yes, Ocean's 8 premiered at like 4 o'clock today, and so I've still got all of this time to go see another film. So I'm seeing the one I'm more looking forward to now, Hereditary. I am so excited for this, and it's difficult to say why. I don't know what this movie's about. It looks like it's a horror film that involves family dysfunction. That's about all I could really say. However, it has, a lot of people are touting this as a very good film. People I take seriously on the matter. Toni Collette, which, yay. Gabriel Byrne, which, holy crap, where's Gabriel Byrne been all this time? I missed that guy. The biggest draw for me to this film, A24 has a very particular way that they advertise their films, straight up. It's someone created a meme out there that's like the A24 trailer starter pack, and it's true, it's absolutely right, but they're still pretty effective trailers. They don't give too much away, and this trailer is no exception. However, unlike their other horror films, this one not only intrigues me, but I have a super huge desire to see this thing. The way it's put together, the music, the imagery, everything about it puts me on edge. Like, I have a hard time watching that trailer, or like, I'll be listening to stuff on YouTube while I'm like cleaning up the kitchen, and I hear like one of the ads, and it's for Hereditary, and that first like pizzicato note, I'm just like, nope, done listening to this. I am not gonna listen to this right now. I'm just gonna wait till the ad is finished, and we will come back in a moment. It really gets under my skin. And I love horror films, but very few horror films have ever really affected me. For instance, I loved the shit out of It last year. Amazing film. It didn't really scare me. It didn't really get under my bones, but I cared a lot about the characters, so it was suspenseful. However, The Babadook, holy crap, that movie also got under my skin. So it's very weird what movies affect me and what don't, and the trailer for this alone has really got to me. And I know I keep talking about the trailer, but I really don't know anything about this film beyond that. I want to go into it as blind as possible, and because of the A24 model of putting their trailers out, I don't know shit, and that really excites me. So I'm gonna go in, watch this thing, and I'll be right back.
It's heartening to see so many strange new faces here today. I know my mom would be very touched and probably a little suspicious. My mother was a very secretive and private woman. It's Grandma. You know you were her favorite, right? Even when you were a little baby.
It's okay. I didn't want to sleep tonight anyway. I don't swim in the waters of hyperbole. It doesn't do anyone any good, but I have no real issue calling this one of the most terrifying films I've ever seen. I don't know if you could call any one film the most terrifying movie you've ever seen. I mean, I know that I know that title is passed to The Exorcist quite a bit, and I can understand why, especially if you're Catholic and were like raised or like born in the 60s or 50s or 60s. Like, I get it. It is very scary, but it's one of those things that we've seen retreads of it. Or people my age, I've seen retreads of it so much that by the time I finally watched The Exorcist, I was like, oh, that's where X, Y, and Z comes from, basically. And that's fine. That's absolutely no fault of the film itself. Pardon the tangent. But the reason why I say that is I don't believe in calling any one film the most terrifying or the scariest horror film ever made. And a lot of that comes down to there are very different types of terrifying. There are very different things that get to people. For some, it's something simple, like being chased by a crazed murderer in the woods. For others, it is being haunted within your dreams, not even being able to find the solace of sleep. For me, a lot of it tends to come down to the fear of the unknown. What lurks just around the dark corner? What is just beyond the veil that I can't see? That's why Lovecraftian horror tends to work so well on me. And in this film in particular, I believe that it works very well in that regard. For instance, the music is very tense, and it does come in and go out, but there's also the idea of like being in a locked camera frame, and you like contextually you're like, what is just off frame? What is right there? And it's that tension and that terror that had me gripping my hands and just like grab the whole movie. It is absolutely terrifying in the A24 model of horror films. The Witch, I believe The Witch is an A24 horror film. If it's not, I'm going to feel really stupid. But The Witch is very similar to this film in regards to how the horror is presented, the kind of pacing that's there, the use of music, those kinds of things. However, this film is much more my speed. That doesn't say The Witch is a bad film. In fact, it's an incredibly brilliant film. However, this movie, I feel, peppers in those moments that just like get to you. It has a lot more of those moments. But what really creates long-lasting impressions from a horror film is that you don't even really get the catharsis of a good scream. You don't get the unwinding of tension that comes with like oh, that was a gory kill, or oh god, that was a scary moment, or even being startled or anything like that. And that's when I think horror works at its absolute peak, is when even after if you were to go through a film or go through a scene and be like, that's the scare moment, that's the moment that's like kind of the point, the climax of the scene, if you will. But when you watch the film, even though in watching it, you know that moment has passed, you're still terrified because you don't know if there's another one coming up. You don't know if that's just the tip of the iceberg or if that's the whole enchilada, you know? And I feel this film does that very well. The use of... Actually, one of the things that I think is very impressive with this film compared to, say, It Comes at Night, is It Comes at Night really relies on certain visual motifs. And that's not to say motifs are a bad thing in any way. And it's not even to say that motifs are a crutch, can be a crutch. No, not at all. It's that, you know, and it takes a lot to pull this off, but when you remove those motifs, when you remove those visual signifiers that tell your brain something scary before you can even think something scary is coming, when you remove those, I think horror becomes even more powerful. Again, I am not at all saying there's anything wrong with motifs in the least bit. But I'm just saying that if done well, it can really be punched up, in this film. Really punches it up, and it's incredibly insidious and nefarious. And I am looking forward to repeat viewings of this so I can grab little tidbits, little breadcrumbs that lead you to the end of, like, what is being set up here, how does it come to be over here, like being able to follow that through line the whole way. It encourages repeat viewings in that regard. So the movie, I really encourage you not to. I mean, you can watch trailers, because I've seen the one trailer like a few times, because, you know, I do this every week and then some. However, I don't recommend looking into the film much more, because I do feel like the film works best when you don't know, when you're not expecting certain things to happen. With that being said, the film itself, I feel comfortable saying basically what it's about, or kind of the inciting incident, beg your pardon, the inciting incident or inciting events. They are Toni Collette's mother has passed away, and you can tell they had an incredibly strained relationship. But despite that, she still wants to heal from it, and you can definitely tell that she has been through some things. There's an opening bit that basically, it doesn't tell you, but it tells you a lot. And I think it's one of the best uses of an opening scroll I've ever seen, because throughout the film, or actually there's only one other moment where a certain thing, not called back on, but a certain thing is reinforced, so that by the time you get to where the movie is going, you're like, wait a minute, what? And I think it's very strong in that regard, because it's not even a moment. Sorry, new car doesn't really like being left. There we go. And it's not even like a moment where someone says something, but it's one of those things that you piece together, and you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, wait, oh, what? I think that's fantastic. Anyway, the movie itself, after Toni Collette's mother's passed, there is a strain upon her husband and her two children, and that's as comfortable as I feel telling anyone anything about this film. I definitely say go and watch this. Now, the writing, I think, is perfect. The writing to this film is, first of all, incredibly naturalistic dialogue. Just like, wow. You nailed it. You nailed it in places where you didn't even need to nail it, and you still nailed it. But beyond that, a big thing to me that tends to wreck horror films, films in general, but specifically horror films, is when is that moment a producer comes in and says, I don't know if the audience is going to get this. Someone needs to explain what's going on. And it's like, well, if you hadn't put that in there, you would have been fine. Sorry. There we go. This is incredibly distracting for the both of us. So, anyway, this film doesn't have a moment like that. It doesn't go like, oh, this is what's happening. Let me explain everything. Now, if only we can do X, Y, and Z, we can get out of this. No, none of that. And that really lends to this suffocating fear that just settles. And it only becomes more intense as the film goes on. And I mean, suffocating, good on me. That I think that's a really good word to use for this. Now, film looks great. Love the look of the film. It's very naturalistic, but it just looks good. The camera work is impeccable. The performances, holy crap. Okay, I'm going to mention the secondary performances first, but that's only because I don't want them to get forgotten by anyone. The children, whose names I've forgotten, I'm terrible with names, but they're children, top-notch work. As far as just unsettling, and then as, I don't know what's going on and I'm terrified. I hope y'all don't mind, I'm just gonna leave it dark for the rest of this. As far as unsettling and I don't know what's going on, and this is terrifying, oh, pitch perfect. Excellent work. Gabriel Byrne, which, by the way, I've missed you. I love you, always have. Gabriel Byrne he's an actor I've always loved whenever he pops up in anything. I just recently watched Miller's Crossing and I'm like, yes, he's so good. But anyway, Gabriel Byrne, excellent actor. What he does in this film is a thankless job. It really is. But even with that, he's doing a great job. He is really working where this character is and how he is feeling. And I feel for the guy the whole movie, and it's played perfectly. Now, all that being said, Toni Collette. Papa bless. Wow. She is doing all the lifting in this film. And not in a negative way, but she is burdened with so much in this movie. And there is not a single note that is off. She really blows me away with just how perfect she nails this character, how this character is feeling, where this character has come from, everything about it. And it's not an easy role to play, because there are a lot of moments where you're like, man, I really sympathize with this character, but then there are moments where you're like, how much should I be sympathizing with this character? And it's a fine line to walk. It's very difficult, and I don't think that this role was easy. There's no way in hell this role was easy on her. I feel like she poured so much into this, and she deserves all the recognition that she's already got, and she needs more of it. That is how good she is in this film. I loved this movie. Absolutely. What really gets me is that we've actually had some pretty good horror movies this year. Like, we've had Unsane, which I loved. We've had Annihilation, which I loved. We've had A Quiet Place, which I've loved. And now this movie, and hot damn. Wow, I'm just... go see this film. If you are into horror films, let me actually backtrack that a little bit more. If you're into horror films, cool. If you are into this kind of horror film, that is deliberately paced, that isn't chock full of startles and jump scares. It's not full of like horrific imagery to the brim. If those are things that work for you, this film it's gonna do you right. So if this is the kind of film that, you know, more deliberately paced, characters that aren't yelling and screaming the whole time, you know, bordering on existential is the threat in this film. If those are all things that work for you, this film is your jam, and I demand you go see it. So, I know I'm gonna go see it again, but, oh man. Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't need to sleep anyway. So, thank you so much for watching this quite very long review. Please like the video, comment below, especially if you've seen it. I would love to know what other people think of this film. Channel is youtube.com/glassfilmshouse. You can find me on Facebook at glasshousefilms and Twitter at glasshousefilms. Thank you so very much. I still don't know what I'm watching next week, but I will see you back here in 1 week. Bye.